All right, welcome Math 10C students. Today's lesson is quite important in the sense that we haven't really used the graphing features of our graphing calculator. And we're going to be doing that today during the 7.3 Skill Builder and the 7.3 Math Lab. Now, for the purposes of this course, you are able to solve things sometimes with a graphing calculator, sometimes algebraically. So you don't need to go out and buy a graphing calculator right now. I will be providing you some software that you can use on your computers if you don't have a graphing calculator at home. However, depending on which stream you end up in next year, if you are in Math 20-2 for next year, you will definitely need to get yourself a graphing calculator for that course. So just keep in mind that I'm not requiring you to have a graphing calculator right now. I am going to give you an alternative program, but you may possibly need it for next year depending on which stream you end up with. So we're going to start by graphing this equation, y equals 3x minus 7. Now you can use two different kinds of calculators. I have one of the older ones. It's called a TI-83. And some of you have a TI-84, which is a little bit newer of one. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to minimize this window and I'm going to show you on your calculator screen basically what this would look like. Okay, and then I'll come back to this and we'll fill in the answers for that. So what we're going to do again, our equation y equals 3x minus 7. So 3x minus 7 is what we're going to put in on the next. I'm just going to move up so that I'm in the y1. Okay, so in order to get this in your calculator, you would have to press the y equals button. Okay, so that y equals button will take you to this screen where you can put in your equation. Okay, so from here, again, the equation we were putting in is 3x minus 7. So these are the buttons that you're going to use on your graphing calculator. You're going to put in the number 3. You're going to use this button that has x, t, and so on. That's going to represent the x. Okay, and then minus, so minus 7. Okay, so that's how you would put it in on your calculator. So whatever your number is, we're going to be using this symbol right here to represent x, and then the second number. So from there, I can hit this zoom button, and I'm going to go zoom number 6. So what that's going to do is it's just going to give me a standard kind of screen that I can use. That's probably what you're going to use for most of them. So there you can see that they've graphed our line. Okay. And that's what you need to do with that. Now, if you want to find the coordinates along this line, we can hit this trace button. So this trace button here will allow us to move along this line. You'll notice that right now it actually is giving us our y-intercept, which is 7. So when x is equal to 0, y is equal to, negative 7. And then we can use our sideways arrows to move along this line if we wanted to do that. Okay, so you'd be using your sideways arrows on your calculator. So these arrows right here to move from side to side. Okay, just to show you what it's like. And the equation is shown at the top of the screen. You'll notice right here, our y1 equation is shown right here in blue. So if we want to find what the value of y is, if x is equal to 2, we can hit trace, number 2, and enter. So that puts in our x value of 2. So if you wanted to find a specific x value, you can put trace, whatever that x value is, and hit enter. So we can see here that when x is equal to 2, y is equal to negative 1. Now, if we wanted to graph another equation on this screen, our system of linear equations, we can go back to our y equals, hit the down arrow to go into the space below. And then from here, we can put in the second equation that they gave us. So the second equation was negative 2x plus 5. So I'm going to go negative 2x plus 5. Okay, I can hit graph, and that will graph my second equation. Really nice on here because it shows it as a different color. Okay, and then I can see those two lines graphed there. Now this is a little bit into the next lesson, but I just want to show you if you wanted to find the intercept of these two lines, how you would go about doing that. And I am going to show it as we go into this lesson, But if we wanted to find the intercept, we could go second, trace. You'll notice that that's going to calculate something. And if we wanted to find our intersect, we could hit number 5. And then this next part, you're going to have to hit enter 3 times. The reason why is it's wanting you to identify the 2 lines that we want to find the intersect of, and the 3rd time we'll actually find the intersect. So I'd hit enter once, enter twice, and enter a 3rd time. Now you'll notice in this one that the intersect of the 2 lines is actually a decimal number. Okay, so that's how we would do that, and we're going to do that in the next part of the lesson as well. So don't worry too much about that if you're a little bit confused. And if you want to clear out the equations that you have in here, you can just hit the clear button, go down, hit the clear button, and then we have a fresh screen to work with for the next part. So again, just as shown in the skill builder, we were able to plot both of our equations, and then we could even see the intersect of those two. So there's a check at the bottom of the page. You can try that on your own. So pause the video right now, and then you can try it on your own, see how it goes. I will say one thing though, in order to graph these equations, they have to be in slope-intercept form, or y equals mx plus b. So you'll notice that one of the equations here is written in general form. You'll have to change that general form to slope-intercept form. You're going to have to isolate that y. Remember, I said that the things that we were learning in the last chapter are going to be built upon in this chapter. So I expect you to be able to put those equations into sloped intercept form. So please pause the video now, and then I'll do the rearranging of this equation so that you can enter them both into your calculator. So if we want to rearrange this from general form into slope intercept form, we can do a couple different things. We can move everything but the y on the other side. So we'll do that here. We end up with negative y equals negative 2x plus 3. In order to get rid of that negative, we divide everything by negative 1. That leaves us with 2x minus 3. So the two equations that we are going to put into our calculator are right here. Okay, so we're going to enter those into the calculator. Then we're going to graph the equations on our picture here. And then we're going to use the trace to find some points on those lines. So I'm going to switch to my calculator screen here for a minute. And let's input those 2 points. So the first one was already in the proper form. We had 5x plus 3. Our second equation was 2x minus 3. Okay, so there's our 2. I'm going to hit graph. There's my 2 lines. Okay, and so from here you could do a quick sketch of your lines. The sketch doesn't have to be perfect, but it should be fairly close to what you see in the picture here. So for the one line, I find it easiest to kind of just sketch what my x and y intercepts are and then connect the line from there. So you'll notice for the blue line right here, that one intersects at 3, so a positive 3. And then it's about halfway between, maybe a little bit further than halfway between 0 and 1. So you could sketch that line there. And then you're going to sketch the second line. So again, that one, the x-intercept is about 1 point, maybe 1.6-ish. And your y-intercept's at negative 3. I would again recommend that you label these lines. Okay, so please make sure you label the lines so that you know which line's which on your graph. And the last thing I'm going to do here while we have this calculator screen is just write down a couple points. So right here, nice and easy on the blue line, we could use our y-intercept, which is 0 and 3. They just told you to write a coordinate of one of the points on the line. So we could use that as 1. Now, if we want to go to the other line, we can use our up and down arrows here. So the down arrow will take us to the other line. Might as well use our y-intercept here as they're 2 nice points. You can write that as your points for your other one. So I'm not going to sketch these for you just because it does take a long time and I don't want this video to take too long. But you can take a look at my sketches in the answer key. But what I will do is we'll put those 2 points in as our coordinates. So for the line y equals 5x plus 3, we have 0 and 3. And for our other line, we have 0 and negative 3. Okay, and then make sure you do a quick sketch of that line. So I'll just show you on my answer key here what my lines looked like. Okay, so again, you'll notice that I use those y-intercepts, and then I roughly tried to copy the x-intercepts as well. For a sketch, I'm not going to be as picky though. So let's try the next page. So we're building upon what we did in the previous lessons. So again, we're going to be using graphing technology to solve our system of linear equations. So instead of doing it algebraically, we're going to be answering these questions using our graphing calculators, and then we can verify after. So we have a problem here that we're going to make some linear equations for. So they had a school carnival. The carnival raised $1,518.75. So that was my total amount raised, 1518.75. They also told us that adult tickets were $375, student tickets were $250. So they've represented those values right here. And they told us that we had 520 total people in attendance. So that means if my x is the adult, my x plus my y is going to be equal to 520. So I can come up with some equations from there. So the third column is represented by x plus y equals 520. And my fourth column here, we have 3.75x. That's the value of the adult ticket, plus 2.50y. That's the value of my student ticket, equals 1,518.75. So we have two equations that we can use. And now we can use our graphing calculators to try and find the answer or the solution to our system of linear equations. We have to do a little bit of work with those two equations before we can put it into our calculators. So remember, if we want to put them in our calculator, we need them in slope-intercept form, or y equals mx plus b. So let's take this equation that we had here, x plus y equals 520, and let's put that into that slope-intercept form. That means that y equals negative x plus 520. Remember to get the x to the other side. If we had a positive x or we are adding x here, we're going to subtract x on the other side. So now I should be able to put that into my calculator in that form. The next one's going to take a little bit more work. Put it into slope-intercept form. We had 1518.75 as our total. So if we want to rearrange to put this in slope-intercept form, we have to isolate y. So we have negative 3.75x plus 1518.75. Then to get rid of the 250, we have to divide both sides by 250. We end up with y equals negative 3.75 divided by 250x. And we have 1518.75 divided by 250. That will give us, I'm just going to write this to the side here, y equals negative 3.75 divided by 2.50x plus, and 1518.75 divided by 250 is 607.50. So this is what we are going to put into our graphing calculator. So I'm going to show you now the next few set of instructions, but just a note here that they ask you to change, you're going to enter the equations first into your graphing calculator, and then you're going to change the window settings, because if you notice by this that our y-intercept is going to be 607, and our y-intercept for this one's going to be 520. So we're going to need to change those window settings, and I'll show you how to do that on your calculator, because in the standard window settings, we would not be able to see these equations properly. Okay, so I'm going to show you exactly how you would punch them into your calculator and then what they are going to look like. All right, so let's go back to this one that we had from the previous one. I need to clear these two, so you're going to have to do that every time. I'm just going to clear all this too, just in case that's confusing you. So we'll just clear all this data. Okay, so let's go back to our graphing calculator. So I'm going to put in the first equation. That was negative x plus 520. So I have a negative x plus 520. Okay, and then I want to do the other equation, so down arrow, and my equation for that, now this one's a little bit trickier. I'm going to go open bracket because I have a fraction, negative 3.75 divided by 2.5, or you can put 2.50, close bracket. Okay, so that keeps the fraction as a fraction. That's my x value, plus 607.5. Okay, so there's my two graphs that I'm going to be inputting. Now, remember I said we have to go in and change our window settings. They've given us specific window settings here, so I'm just going to use the window settings that they've suggested. They suggested to put my x minimum as 0, my x maximum as 550, my x scale is going to be 50, so each of those points is actually going to be 50 on my x scale. My y minimum, they've asked me to set to 0. My y maximum, 650. My y scale will also be by 50. And my, oh, whoa. Okay, whoa, what happened there? Okay, that did not happen with my regular calculator. Okay, so I'll just go back to my window settings. And my resolution is 1. Okay, perfect. That's what I wanted. So we'll just check in 0, 550, 50, 0, 650. Oh, no, my Y scale I need to fix. Y scale is supposed to be 50. Resolution's 1. Perfect. Okay, so once I have changed those window settings, now I can hit graph. Perfect. Okay, so now I have hit graph. I can see my two different lines. So at this point, you could do a sketch for each of the lines. If you want to know what your y-intercepts are, they are in that point slope form. So you can tell that the intersect for one line is going to be 520. That's this blue line. The other line is going to be 607.50. And if you wanted to find the x-intercepts again, just do it roughly as shown in the picture here. So you're going to sketch those two lines. And then we want to find the intersect of these two lines to find the solution. So we're going to go second, trace, which is the calculate button. We're going to go number 5. And we're going to go enter 3 times. So enter for one line, enter for 2 line, and the third time to find the intersect. Okay, so they've asked you in this to write down the intersect of the two. So I'm just going to toggle back to my other screen here. So I apologize. I know I'm moving between screens for this lesson. There we go. Okay, so I'll show you after what my graph looked like. I did do a sketch of the lines, but again, to make this a little bit shorter, I don't want to do that graphing. The intersect they gave me was 175 and 345. So the points of intersect are 175 and 345. And again, your graph might not look exactly the same, but it should look pretty close to something like that. So you can see here that I've labeled both of my lines and I've done a rough sketch of each of them. So last part that we need to do here, they want us to verify the solution. So they want to know if these are the correct numbers. So this, remember this X value and this Y value, this is my adult, this is my student. So that means they say I have 175 adult tickets. I have 345 student tickets. Add those two numbers together, that gives you 520. That was the correct number of people. The adult tickets cost $375. The student tickets cost $250. 175 times 3.75 gives you $656.25. And for the students, that gives you $862.50. If you add those two numbers up, that gives you $1,518. 75. So the total in attendance is 520. That goes with our equation that we had previously. The total amount raised was $1,518.75. That was correct with the equation we had previously. So the solution is correct. That means we had 175 adult tickets or adults at the show and 345 students at the show or the carnival. So that's the end of the guided practice. There is a practice, there's practice questions on the next 2 pages in your notes. So page 394, 395. It's pretty quick, probably honestly, putting the equations into your calculator and doing a sketch of the lines will take you the longest. It shouldn't take you too long. So you can stop the video now, make sure you do those practice questions, and then use the answer key on the Google Classroom to check your answers. I encourage you to continue working through those practice questions, and tomorrow you will have a summative assessment, just a midpoint summative assessment that will check to make sure that you're understanding these concepts before we go on to new material. So have a great rest of your day. Bye-bye.